Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kamal Chaudhry. I am no stranger to Zambia. This is my home. I would like to start by saying that the purpose of getting together this morning is to introduce a unique product that has come in the world as the latest in the solar home system called the 3G solar home system. I would also like to inform that this company, Solaric Limited, of which I'm a director, we have established ourselves in Zambia and we want to light Zambia. The purpose of getting together is to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to see our product, to see what it can add to the value of the rural life in Zambia, how it can improve the lives of our countrymen. I would like to also say a few words about the very inventor who invented this technology. This is none but my colleague, Mr. Didar Islam. I will soon invite him to come here. Mr. Islam is an engineer. He's a technologist and a scientist. He made his name and fame in USA, where he obtained his first-class engineering degree and then joined a large multinational American firm. Today, in the USA, while he was working some years ago, he invented and patented a technology which opens half of the modern and new houses that has garages in USA. I'm pleased to mention that this inventor, his roots are in South Asia. Though he lived half of his life in USA, he felt the need that he should go back to his country and see why there is problem with regard to power and electricity in the rural village of Bangladesh. He went there, living his luxurious home in USA, and he felt that he could contribute towards changing the lives of the common men in that country. He started humbly with a village of his own, where he lighted hundreds of houses with his 3G. Today, his company, Solaric, we aim to light Africa. But why Zambia? The World Bank has taken the 3G system in Tanzania. We have also invited World Bank here today, and we have one of the representatives. We'd like you to know that why Zambia? Because this is my home. And I feel very passionately that in Zambia, there should be light. And our aim is to light, light, light. Gentlemen, and ladies, the decision is yours. We welcome you to evaluate us. We welcome you to see the product. We will demonstrate to you. It's a very rare occasion, and it's historic for me and Solaric that I have invited the very inventor to spare his time and come to Zambia and show for himself what it can add to the lives of this country, to the countrymen, to the rural Zambia. Even though this product is designed and invented for rural homes, but knowing Zambia so intimately, I see that it can also be used in residential homes in Lusaka, in Ndola, in Kitwe, because we have power failures. It can provide that light, which for one modest investment can provide you free electricity for a lifetime. Without having to take much time of yours, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome the inventor, Mr. Islam. Mr. Islam.
I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about how life can change with little innovation. And this is what we'll talk about today. Many of you have seen how solar system is used. So you can categorize or divide in different ways. In a very simple way, you think of an inverter. So there are systems where you need inverter. And there are systems where you don't. So if you look at rural areas, we do not use inverters. So what do? We charge the battery from the solar panel during daytime, and they store the energy in the battery, and then we run from the battery directly. So that would require you appliances that can run from the battery, which is 12 volt, low voltage. That is a traditional system for rural homes. We call this low voltage solar system because the solar panel produces low voltage DC. And so you can run directly. And this is a very efficient system, by the way. The only problem with that is you cannot use appliances which runs in your AC environment. You cannot go to your local shop, buy a light, and then try to use it with that low voltage system. It doesn't work. You cannot charge your mobile phone, which has become such a big thing these days everywhere we go. Cannot run a laptop, cannot run traditional appliances that runs from utility. So it restricts you what you can actually do. But whatever you can do it very efficiently. So that is the system without inverter. Now think of a system that we use solar in the grid areas or urban areas. That's where we use inverter because we know electricity is AC. Now how many people here, I know there are a lot of technical guys here, how many people we know what is an inverter? Inverter is converting DC into AC. I think most people will think like that, which is the correct thing. But there's a very interesting thing with inverter. It also steps up the voltage from low voltage to high voltage. So there are two functions for an inverter. One, DC to AC, and the other one is low voltage to high voltage. Now, why is this important? Think about everything we use in a home, appliances like lights, TVs, fan, radios, laptops, name it. All the appliances are actually low voltage DC. Everything. So when we connect to this wall outlet, what happens is really taking that 220 volt AC, converting into DC first, which sometimes we call it rectifier, and then steps down to a lower voltage so that everything can run. So even though we think that the appliances are AC appliance, but the reality is it actually takes the AC, converts it to low voltage DC. So if that's the case, so the question is, inverter is the piece which actually converts, it does both things. It takes the low voltage and makes it high voltage, and also converts DC into AC. So the question now becomes, why do we need to convert it to AC? This question was answered 150 years ago. The gentleman named scientist Thomas Alva Edison. He fought entire life for DC. He said, someday when I will not be alive, people will understand the power of DC, and the power being efficiency. DC is efficient in every way, from generation to distribution, of course transmission included, all the way to your appliance. Because the appliance we're using, all DC. Interestingly, God has given us sun, which produces electricity, also DC. So your source of generation is DC. Your application is DC. So in the middle, why do we convert up to AC and then come down again? It just doesn't make any sense, except for JESCO or any utility companies. Why? Because traditionally, you generate power in one place, and then you have to transmit into a long distance. And the only way you could do that is using something we call transformer. Interestingly, transformer works only with AC. So that is the reason why we didn't have any choice for utility companies other than to convert it to AC for the purpose of transmitting the power easily. That was the historic reason why we remain AC. And that's why all the household still remains AC. But as soon as you hit the house, going inside the house, you convert it to DC. So when it comes, why I'm saying all this, when it comes to solar, the life has changed because you don't need to generate power in one place and transmit to others. You can actually generate and consume at the same place. And if you do, there's no need to actually step up to AC and down again. This is the observation we made 10 years ago when we started our journey. We said time has come, the central generation and then transmission and distribution becomes irrelevant when it comes to solar. Then the issue remains, okay, if inverter is such a lossy and expensive item, but it has a benefit that you can use any standard appliance. You can run TVs, you can fan, the lights, and mobile charging, anything you name. So we need a technology which can marry the both sides. Like it gives you the ability to use any appliance and at the same time remains efficient like DC. So that's where this technology comes, which we're calling it third generation solar home system. What it does, it converts the low voltage 12 volt DC into 125 volt, but still remains in DC. So that you can run pretty much any appliance, which we call AC appliance, and at the same time give you the efficiency that you need. It starts very small, like 10 watt, and goes up to 100 watt. So there are different varieties. But the simple way to look at that is it gives you the ability to run any standard appliance without the loss and cost of an inverter. Inverter is the biggest pricey and lossy element in the whole system. If you're running in the the grid areas, you don't have much choice. But once you are actually in a rural areas, you do have a choice now, which is you can work with the optimizer, get the benefit of utility level voltage without the loss and cost of an inverter. So in a very simple form, that is what this technology is about. It opens your door. You don't have to be restricted to use only 12 volt appliances. You can pretty much run anything and run it efficiently. So then the question comes about why 125 volt, not 220? And then the question is, okay, if it is DC, then what appliance will not work with this system? To answer the first one, if you look at any appliance and look at the voltage range, you will see like your laptop adapter or your mobile charger or anything that you can see. You will see the voltage range is 100 volt to 240 volt. This is something I would request every one of you when you go back or look at your mobile phone charger or your laptop or anything that you can see the voltage range. You will see the range is 100 volt to 240 volt. What does it really mean? It means you can take your mobile phone charger today, use it in Zambia or use it in California using the same charger without changing. Right? This is what we call the universal voltage range, 100 volt to 240 volt. If that's the case, then inside it used to be transformer which converts one voltage to another voltage. But these days, not anymore. Things have become more electronics in nature than electrical. Electrical is where you have the coil, transformer. Electronics is something we call SMPS, the switch mode power supply. Whole world has converted into electronics from electrical. What is our experience? We started in Bangladesh, like Mr. Chaudhary was explaining, and we started in 2009. Initially, everybody was skeptic. Everybody says, in the rural areas, 12 volt is fine. Why do you really need high voltage, and why do you need all these fancy equipments? The point was, we should not undermine, or we should not think that the need in the rural areas are something different than our own need. This is something I always take exception to, and I say, this is something because we don't know how to deliver to them. This is not the demand. The demand is you give someone in the rural areas who have never seen electricity before, you give him a lantern, tomorrow he will be asking for more. You give him more, he'll be asking for more. And someday, his need or demand will be just like you and I are using. So in our way of thinking, we always say energy is almost like an addictive. You cannot give them more. You cannot give them enough. They always need more. And giving them the opportunity to use standard appliance, it actually opens up the door. But now they're not restricted to only few lights or only few things. They can do same thing as we can do. In Bangladesh, when we first started, the market was completely dominated by 12-volt system. And when we introduced, it took only 1 year before this became the next standard. And now, you'll be happy to hear that in Bangladesh alone, we are supplying 10,000 systems every month in only last couple of years. And then in end of 2012, we got invited by this World Bank project in Tanzania, who started from Tanzanian RIA entity for this rural electrification. They wanted this system, and we started in Tanzania last year. And now that volume also has started significant. And then I met Mr. Chowdhury last year, and he actually convinced me to come to Zambia. I didn't know anything about Zambia. I had very little knowledge, like many of us. But he lived in Zambia for such a long time, and he said, you must come and see what this country needs. And this is exactly what is required in the rural areas. So that is how I landed in Zambia, and this is my second visit. And we have already formed a company and started rolling the operation in Tanzania and in Zambia. But if you look at all other solutions available out in the market, you will see if it's rural areas, all are 12-volt based system. This is the only technology which is 125-volt system that enables you to use any standard appliance you can or you want. Now, based on our experience in Bangladesh and also in Tanzania, we will share with you how the market is developed and how the commercial entities eventually took over. I'll give you the example in Bangladesh, which has now become the world's pioneer and champion in disseminating these rural systems. As we speak, there are 4.5 million homes are using solar home systems. Most of them are still the older generation because we have delivered around 150,000 systems so far. But the demand is so overwhelming, it didn't happen just on a blink of an eye. It required a systematic approach of building the awareness, which is the step forward to building the market itself. So when they started, the project was financed by World Bank and sponsored by the local government. And it was like a financing mechanism because if a system costs you $200, for example, a man sitting in the rural areas, for him to buy the entire system paying cash kind of becomes difficult. So it is important to have some kind of financing mechanism along with the product so that they can pay maybe over 2 years or 1 year time. That way, they can also feel comfortable with the product, and the product comes with the service so that they can feel comfortable that, yes, we are paying and we are getting the service. And this system started 10 years ago in Bangladesh. Initially very small, and the government was all supportive every way they could do, including how to control the quality, how to make sure that the customer at the end user are getting the service they have been promised, and also they are being able to pay on a monthly basis instead of paying all upfront. So these three elements, quality control, ensuring the service, and being able to help them so that they can pay on a monthly basis instead of all in one go, actually fueled the whole industry. And the demand is skyrocketing, and the 4.5 million people got the connection. And now, after a few years, the commercial sectors or private sectors has come in, and they have taken over. Now, if you go to rural areas in Bangladesh, you'll find shops, outlets who are selling the system on a commercial basis. But initially, it was not the case. Initially, government took up, and they said, okay, we need to build the awareness. We need to make sure that people have the confidence that this thing actually works, and they can pay and get the service. So this thing requires certain level of government hand-holding at the beginning, because no private sector will get into this space unless the market is built. So this is like a chicken and egg situation. And a lot of time what we have seen, both in Bangladesh and in Tanzania, that government actually took the first lead and get this ball rolling before the private sectors guys move in, and which you have seen both countries. And in Zambia, I think we're in the early stage, and so there are some roles for the government to play and let the market actually get developed to a level where private sectors can come in and start the scaling up. The couple of things that government could do and has done that we have seen, one is, of course, building up the awareness with some projects, and then at the same time helping the duty-free access, especially for equipments which are a lot of time may not be locally available. Also incentivize the players or the local guys who can build the capacity, the internal human resource capacity, the technical capacity, and also the back-end supply chain capacity. So that also requires some government help. And the most important thing actually is building up the ecosystem where people can actually get the service and get the confidence that yes, this thing works, yes, this thing we can afford, and yes, service is available. Because this is not we call the FMCG, the fast moving consumer good. This is not an FMCG product. This is not a candy bar that you can buy off the shelf and just consume it. This is energy. This changes life. This changes how you think, how you live your life. That means that requires some kind of confidence building in terms of service. Just for example, JESCO, when there's something gone wrong, somebody can call up and complain to JESCO, oh, why I don't have power. Now that means there is a level of confidence in the user mind that, oh, there's somebody who's taking care of me. The same level of confidence building is required in the rural areas. They have not seen the power before, so they will be skeptic at the beginning. Does this really work? Or do I really get what I'm paying for? Now that requires a confidence building, which is really the beginning of your market development. When that happens, there will be many companies who will be able to actually supply and build up the roll up or the scale up the systems, which I think in the rural areas where more than 70% of the population are still out of power. This is a system, affordable, unrestricted, so that people can benefit from the solar energy in the same way that we people in the urban areas do. And the bottom of the pyramid people can afford it because the price is less than 50% of what you see in the market today. And that, coupled with the financing mechanism, you can make it affordable to the rural areas. We are partnering with our local friends so that the building awareness and confidence is the first part, and then we can roll it out in a bigger way in the commercial mode. In the beginning, we will also request people from entities of the government that they have a very vital role to play, especially at the early stage, just to do things, build up the confidence in the rural areas, and also build up the capacity so that this can be done by the private sector commercial.
More than 70% of our rural communities, as well as our communities in urban and planned settlements, have no access to electricity. So this energy is the answer to providing electricity to the majority of our communities in rural areas, as well as in unplanned settlements.
The 3G solar home systems is a good system. It shows clearly that it is different from the conventional solar systems that we have been using in the country, which use inverters. This new system actually seems to be higher in efficiency than the conventional one. We believe that with this system, it should be possible to go out into the rural areas and be able to have it installed in as many communities as possible. Also, the issue of the payment, investment payment over a period, payment by installations, installments. I believe that this will be very attractive to the rural community because they know that after finishing the payment, the investment, the whole system becomes theirs. In my view, there is a very green and big future for this system in Zambia. I believe that many customers and stakeholders will buy in quite quickly, and we should be able to move forward to empower our rural community with energy.
We are making a case for Zambia. This is a product which by now you have already may have come to a conclusion that this is a unique product. This is not just a solar system that we all see in Cha-Cha-Cha or Freedom Way and everywhere. This is a system designed and built for rural homes. And a sterling example of that is what just Mr. Islam has said in Bangladesh. 4.5 million houses connected, and all in rural villages. That country has a population of about 168 million people. And it has now changed the lives, not just of the rural people, but it has changed the very economics of the country, the GDP, the growth. So the importance of light, taking light into our rural homes, cannot be overstressed.